your films really do a great job of painting the cultural landscape of this country, certainly, and I know. Have you done anything overseas or?
Not really.
You went to Italy.
I did one thing that was related to the North End films. I had. It sounds very highfalutin to call it a trilogy, but there were actually 3 North End films, and the first one's about the Fisherman's Feast, the Montango sul Corso feast, and that was shot in the North End. It's just about the feast, and it has this wonderful ending where a little girl dressed as an angel is flown out of a window on a block and tackle pulley system. You got to see it someday. So I did that film. Then second film, I went with those folks from that feast to Sicily, where their feast had originated from, and saw the feast there, and filmed them sort of interacting with their compatriots, and sometimes, in most cases, relatives who had the same religious ritual. It was really about looking at people who consider themselves Italians, but they're actually Americans. And seeing in the light of the fact that they're in Italy, that they're not quite so Italian anymore. But they do have this incredible connection that impressed the Sicilian members of the feast enormously. So that was really the only, I've done that film abroad, and I've done a film in the Philippines with the members of the U.S. Geological Survey about Mount Pinatubo.
A science film.
A science film. So I mostly, I really deliberately, I love to travel abroad, and I realize I've kind of painted myself into a corner with this being an American filmmaker thing, but I really have, probably since the early 90s, have really committed myself to telling stories about the United States. There's just so much here, and so much of it is about other places. You know, the storytelling of Chinese men who come to Central Oregon during the gold rush and set up an apothecary, you know, or, you know, these Italian Americans.
So it's actually like the world's coming to you.
Oh yeah, I really do think of it that way. I'm very interested in those topics of immigration and the diversity of this country, and so I find that really thrilling. But having said that, I love to make a film abroad. I haven't been out for a while doing that, so it'd be fun. I love to travel, and I do well with that stuff, but it's been a long time since I've told a non-American story.
Well, keep them coming. I think the American stories are
Thanks.
Equally wonderful. But maybe, you know, you won't get a cruise out of it.
That's right. That's right. I probably won't get a cruise out of it. I might not get a cruise out of it anyway. And I think cruising and independent filmmaking don't necessarily go together.
Well, one of the things that you know impresses me as well is the breadth of your work in terms of, and we just said that you focus on American subjects, but the topics, the range of topics is really striking, and you seem to navigate them, you know, easily, whether it's a science thing or a cultural thing. Is there a piece of advice you could give about, you know, or is there an approach that you think is kind of universal or uniform that's applicable to all these different topics?
I think my biggest piece of advice, or the thing that I really try to do for myself, is just very simple, and everybody really knows it at heart, is doing one's homework. And that doesn't just mean doing research, which is integral to all these films, but I have very, very rarely shown up at an interview cold. Once in a while it's happened because of circumstances. I've been thrown into something because there's an opportunity and we have to go for it. But generally speaking, I don't show up to see anybody and talk to anybody about a topic where I haven't spent an awful lot of time preparing. And that's partly just to be informed and knowledgeable, but it's also because then we can do what we're doing, which is really have a conversation.
Right, rather than reading a teleprompter.
Like looking at my notes and freaking out, how do you pronounce that word? And it just makes it so much nicer. And people have said to me, oh, you really do nice interviews, and to me it's all about keeping it conversational. And you can't do that if you don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
And I've really had to apologize that I can think of 2 occasions, and only 2, where I showed up cold because of circumstances. And I just begged people's forgiveness and then tried to wing it from there. But I think that's the heart of everything, because then once somebody's comfortable with you, they know you've done your homework, they know you're on top of things, they have confidence in you, they relax. Yes. You get stuff from them that they might not have given you otherwise. It just changes the dynamic so much. So it's not a huge secret, it's just sort of something that I think sometimes people skip over.
Yeah.
Think they can rely on a piece of paper. And it's good to have notes, but it's
right. So internalize information.
So yeah, that's my big tip.
Great.